All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be delving into the life and times of, well, I guess you could say the man, the myth, the legend, Albert Einstein.
Oh, yeah, the name everyone knows, even if they don't know the science.
Exactly. We're going way beyond Eamsigal, so we've got his Wikipedia page open, of course, but also a pretty hefty biography here, really trying to get the full picture.
Yeah, beyond the genius's image, right? Like, what made this guy tick? And how did he change the world like he did?
Absolutely. So let's start with the basics. Born 1879, Ulm, Germany. But his citizenship is, well, a bit all over the place. German, then Swiss, then back to German in Berlin, and finally, U.S. citizen in 1940.
Wow, yeah, you can trace, like, major world events just through that. Like, tells you a lot about the times he lived in.
Definitely not a boring life.
Yeah.
Now, you'd think Einstein, straight-A student, top of the class, right?
Yeah.
But his early education wasn't quite that smooth. Actually, he kind of struggled, felt out of place at the Loophole Gymnasium, even has some speech delays, apparently.
Interesting. The bio kind of hints that the school, their teaching style, too rigid for him, didn't mesh with how his brain worked. Happens sometimes with, like, really original thinkers.
Right. The system doesn't always know how to handle them. But even then, the brilliance was peeking through. 12 years old, teaching himself algebra, calculus, even Euclidean geometry. Before 13, he comes up with his own proof for the Pythagorean theorem. Try doing that.
I wouldn't even know where to start. That's crazy impressive. And by 14, mastered integral and differential calculus. This kid's brain was on another level, clearly.
Total whiz kid. Can't forget the influence of Max Talmud, family friend. So this guy introduced young Albert to, like, serious stuff, science texts, and get this, Kant's critique of pure reason. Apparently, by 13, Kant was his favorite philosopher.
Whoa, heavy reading for a teenager. Shows he wasn't just about, like, equations and formulas. Big questions about reality, knowledge that fascinated him early on.
Deep thinker, from the get-go. Still, his academic path, not without hiccups. 16 years old, he tries to get into the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich, what's now ETH Zurich. Fails the general part of the entrance exam.
No way. You'd think. But yeah, guess even Einstein had weak spots.
Luckily, his physics and math were undeniable. Finished up a secondary school in Switzerland, got admitted, graduated 1900, got his PhD in 1905. So even with setbacks, he found his way.
Resilience is key, right?
Yeah.
Even for geniuses.
All right, let's talk personal life, which seems like it had its own share of drama. First marriage, Mileva marriage. They met in Zurich. She was a Serbian physics student. Sounds like his parents weren't too thrilled about the whole thing because of her ethnicity, but they tied the knot in 1903.
Right, and both sources dive into their relationship. She wasn't just, some bystander. She was a physics mind, too. There's even debate about how much she contributed to his early work.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Around 1902, they were in Bern. He starts this thing called the Olympia Academy. It's him and his buddies just getting together, talking science, philosophy, big thinkers of the day. Poincaré, Mach, Hume. Their ideas were swirling around in these discussions. Sometimes Murch would sit in and listen.
I can imagine those sessions, like a mini think tank, bouncing ideas off each other. Must have been so stimulating.
Yeah, fertile ground for, revolutionizing physics, I guess. But then, second marriage, 1919, to Elsa. This one also seems complicated. Wikipedia mentions letters, hints at other relationships, affairs.
Right, so the picture we get is messy, maybe? Like, his personal life wasn't exactly simple and straightforward. Makes you think about, like, the price of genius, maybe?
Yeah, like, did he even have time for a normal life?
Yeah.
Because remember, this whole time, before he's famous, he's working at the Swiss Patent Office, 9 to 5, evaluating inventions, and somehow writing those groundbreaking papers on the side.
Wait, seriously. Patent clerk by day, reshaping physics by night. That's insane levels of productivity. Passion must have been burning in him.
1905 hits. The Annus Mirabilis, the miracle year. Dissertation on molecular dimensions, fine. But then, 4 papers, each one a game changer. The photoelectric effect, Brownian motion, special relativity, and bam, mass energy equivalence, EMCAZ SAW. Talk about a productive year.
It's like Newton's year on steroids. Each paper is huge on its own, but together. It's like he saw the universe differently and just poured it all out.
Let's break them down quick. Photoelectric effect. Light's not just a wave. It's also particles, what we call photons. Blew people's minds back then.
Right, that wave-particle duality, SO ahead of its time.
Then Brownian motion, proof that atoms exist. Special relativity, whoa, space and time, they're connected. Speed of light's constant, leading to all sorts of weird stuff. Time dilation, length contraction, and of course, EMC energy and mass, 2 sides of the same coin.
Revolutionary stuff, each one of them, and he just drops them all boom, boom, boom in 1 year.
Yeah, 1905 was a good year for physics. After that, academic career takes off. 1908 to 1933, he's holding positions in Zurich, Prague, Berlin. Big deal in the science world. Even goes back to East Zurich for a while.
Full circle, right, back to where it sort of began. And this is where his focus starts shifting, right, towards a new theory of gravity.
You mean general relativity, which he nails down by 1915. And it's a doozy. Gravity's not a force pulling things together. It's space-time itself being warped by mass and energy.
Okay, pause right there. I mean, did anyone even understand that back then? It's mind-blowing, even now, W.
Oh, yeah. It took a while for people to catch up. The equivalence principle, for example, free fall, feels the same as floating in space. And he predicted crazy stuff. Time slows down near massive objects, gravitational redshift, light bends around gravity like a lamp.
Wait, hold on, light bends? Like it's not a straight line anymore.
Exactly. And he needed some serious math to describe this warped space-time. Riemannian geometry, non-Euclidean stuff.
Okay, now you're just showing off.
I know, right? But it wasn't just fancy equations. It explained real things. Like the orbit of Mercury. It wobbled in a way Newtonian physics couldn't explain. Einstein's theory nailed it.
So the math matched up with reality. That's got to be satisfying.
Oh, yeah, big validation. But the moment that made him a superstar, 1919 solar eclipse. Eddington observes it, and boom, starlight passing near the sun, it's bent. Just like Einstein predicted. Newspapers go wild. Revolution in science. Newton overthrown.
That's when he went from, like, scientist to celebrity. That eclipse picture, everyone saw it. Proof that this crazy theory, it was real.
Instant icon. Yeah. In the 20s, he's even on the League of Nations representing Germany, even though he was Swiss at the time. Politics mattered.
Shows how much his voice mattered, right? Not just about equations anymore. He's a global figure.
Yeah. And then things get dark. 1933, Hitler comes to power. Einstein's visiting the U.S., and when he hears what's going on, the persecution of Jews, he's horrified. Decides to stay in the U.S., spends a bit of time at Christ Church, Oxford, then lands at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, 1935. Stays there till he dies. U.S. citizen in 1940.
Another turning point. Imagine the loss for Europe, the gain for America. And in Princeton, he meets Kurt Gödel, right? Two of the biggest brains in history, just hanging out.
Yeah, quite the pair. And now we get to World War II, the Manhattan Project. Einstein, lifelong pacifist, but Hungarian scientists warn him Nazis might be working on an atomic bomb. So he does something that, well, later he'll regret.
The letter, right, to President Roosevelt.
Yeah, co-written with Szilard. 1939 urges the U.S. to look into nuclear weapons. That letter, it's considered the spark that lit the fuse for the Manhattan Project.
Heavy stuff. Pacifist urging for a weapon of mass destruction. That's got to weigh on your conscience.
He later said about Hiroshima, ugh, the world is not ready for it. But the thing is, Ichi wasn't allowed on the Manhattan Project. They denied him security clearance, pacifist, socialist, FBI, was suspicious.
Irony much. The guy who warned them, they shut him out.
Yep. Later on, he keeps working on a unified field theory, trying to unite all the forces of nature, but no luck. And he famously clashed with the way everyone else was thinking about quantum mechanics. God does not play dice, he said.
Right, he just didn't like that randomness, that uncertainty. Famous debates with Bohr, the EPR paradox. Still arguing about that stuff today.
But let's not forget, he did contribute to early quantum theory. Photons, energy quanta, quantized atomic vibrations, Bose-Einstein statistics. He laid some of the groundwork, even if he ended up disagreeing with where it went.
Yeah, early adopter, then kind of rebelled against the movement he helped start. Fascinating.
Collaborations, gotta mention those. Einstein-de-Haas experiment showed the link between magnetism and electron spin. They actually found the original apparatus recently.
Talk about a time capsule, like holding a piece of history in your hands.
And get this, he co-invented a refrigerator with Szilard again.
Einstein the fridge guy. Who knew?
Always full of surprises. Personal views got to touch on those. Pacifist, but believed in resisting evil. Supported Zionism, but complicated relationship there. Loved Kant, music, played the violin. Huge admirer of Gandhi. They even wrote letters to each other.
So, a complex guy. Brilliant scientist, but also deeply engaged with the world, its problems, you know, not just ivory tower intellectual.
Legacy time. It's massive. Hundreds of publications, both scientific and not. His archives are at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Nobel Prize in Physics, 1921, for the photoelectric effect. And, of course, special and general relativity, that famous equation.
Foundations of modern physics right there. And don't forget his predictions. Gravitational waves, directly detected in 2015. Gravitational lensing, confirmed by observing star S2 near a black hole, 2018.
He even came up with the cosmological constant, later called it his biggest blunder, although Some think he might have been onto something with a steady-state universe, continuous creation of matter.
Even his mistakes were thought-provoking.
Definitely ahead of his time, in many ways. Element named after him, Mountains too. Times Person of the Century, voted greatest physicist ever. His name basically means genius. And misattributed quotes, don't even get me started. Books, films, plays. The Genius series, the Oppenheimer movie.
His image is everywhere. Like, he transcended science, became a symbol, for pure brain power, changing the world with ideas.
It's kind of crazy. But yeah, Albert Einstein died in Princeton, New Jersey, April 18th, 1955. 76 years old.
End of an era, but his ideas, they're still with us.
So to wrap things up, we've learned that Einstein was more than just a brain in a jar, more than just a relativity guy. He was a complex figure, brilliant, flawed, deeply human. He shaped physics, but also engaged with the big questions of his time. His impact, well, it's immeasurable.
And it makes you think, right? About those initial reactions to his work, the skepticism. How often do we dismiss truly groundbreaking ideas because they're too out there?
Yeah, good point. And what about Einstein's regret over that letter? The burden of responsibility, even when you're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Heavy stuff.
Definitely. Makes you wonder, what would Einstein think about the world today? What advice would he give us?
That's a good question. And here's one for you listeners. Think back to Einstein's struggles with the education system. How can we nurture those brilliant, unconventional minds today? And given his search for a unified theory, his issues with quantum mechanics, what are the big mysteries we're still grappling with? What's the next revolution in physics waiting to happen? Something to ponder for sure. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Until next time.